Hello, and welcome back to step 3, part 4 of doing the M1000 trailer of the M1070 tank transporter. We're moving on past the cabling to the photo etch steps, and I already started with this. The important part about PESA3, if you'll notice, there's little bolt heads on this side. Make sure that you're folding things in that orientation so that those bolt heads end up on the top, like so. Although I didn't give it enough of an angle, that's what we're talking about. So, taking my nice handy dandy smaller photo etch bender, which I absolutely love. Done that. However, got to do that, then you got to bend this up without rebending this. You start getting into tough folds already. So how are we going to do that? Well, we have to go from this side then and lift this up so I can turn this over this way. So we're going to put this, oh, too tight, like that, so that we have the bolts up, and I'm going to fold it towards it. That would go up this way. So I put it this way, I'm going to fold it down. That's what I mean by you got to figure out where all your folds go. And with this being so wide and so far in, I'm going to have to do it only about 3/4 of the way. Maybe a little bit more than that, 4/5, but still closer than I want. However, it does have the etch line in it, and I folded it the wrong way. There we go. So again, making sure you know which way is which when you're doing the folding, always important. And this wants a nice tight 90-degree bend. Now, in doing so, get a little bit of a fold bend, I call it, when I'm folding it over, but this should be pretty simple to deal with. Just take a nice tweezers like so. Yep, folds it out real nice. So then there aren't any problems with it being like that. But anyways, so you can see right here, we've got those two angles the way we want. I dropped something important on the ground when I grabbed my forceps. No clue where that went or even what it was. You know, welcome to the life of a model builder, right? So eventually I have to figure out what I just lost. I think it was my super glue holder. So anyways, now I'm going to want to put this in and fold it this way. So actually I want to put this in and fold it up this time. Now it's getting a little bit shorter, so this should fit better in here. Anyway, just folding up the photo etched part. I want that to be a little bit tighter. I know they've got the etched lines in the brass, but I think it does better when things are nice and tight on the piece. Now, what do you do when it's narrow like this? I mean, you can't go in there, you're going to be bending on that. That's where having something narrower but rigid, like the end of this, comes in. So you can bend that up on that line, and as you get it up, it's gonna snap like that. But then you can do a little I can't remember the name of that now. You can press against the metal embossing type, yeah, so you can get a nice even bend right there. So, flip that over. And once you've got it bent, you can kind of adapt it as you need it. There you go, like that, and then we just bend this up. Or this way, so you can see the line, bend it down. Now again, the problem with bending it down is doing it without doing it without screwing everything else up. So I usually start off with the forceps, and then I can use the straight edge of the actual piece right there, and that is a 90 degrees bend. So that should all work well. That looks great. The knobs are up, and it follows the whole thing. So this will be down below. And this will cover up almost everything that we have done. And this is why I was telling you not to get too excited and too worried about things, because this sits on top, like so, just like that. How much of all that wiring shows up? Nothing. You're seeing it from this side. So it's kind of, for all that work that we did, how much time did we put in? At least an hour and a half, maybe 2 with all the prep time for getting those wires or those lines or whatever you want to call them in, and boom, it's instantly covered. Now you might want to do a diorama showing that uncovered, but it's gone. So don't get too hung up on this. It's only going to be for seeing it from the back side anyways, if you do. So while we're ruminating over that, let's get this folded up. In which case it's 90 degrees up. And this is gonna be an interesting setup too, because it's got that plastic piece that goes on it. Normally I would just glue that on with Tester's glue, but in this case, I'm gonna use the actual whatever this is a blade that is made in the USA, but I can't remember. Double-bladed or double-sided. It's been a day already. Anyway, so I've done that small part right there. Now I need to fold this down. Can't do it that way. Got to do it this way. As we saw before, it's only going to go a certain amount in, and it's going to go away rather than forward. And for that, I want to use my forceps to get it started, and then I will use this to 90 degree it. Right along that crease. It fought me a little bit, not sure why. It was right on the line, but it did. Be aware that these things might fight you a little bit. I wasn't expecting that. Let's see if I can straighten that out. Okay, yeah, it straightened out a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be perfect. These are not perfectly made in real life. But now we have to put this in and fold it up. Again, using the forceps helps to get it started. Using the backside will help. I want to try and do this without, I have to do the short side here without flipping it up and over like the last one. I want to try and get it to 90 degrees and then hold. That looks good. And the form is right there for you to test out if you need to. And one more fold, and that is to fold this down. So I'm going to fold this forward. Anyway. And again, like so. There we go. So these go down now. Kind of the kicker on this is this gets glued, this part gets glued on, and then this piece with that plastic piece on the back gets glued on like that. At least that's what it seems like. That's got to come down one. So I'm guessing actually it goes go like that. No, that doesn't make any sense. And I only mention it because they have that up there with the bolts on this side, like it should be. Oh, okay, yeah, the top two aren't seen, so it's down below here. It's pushing up against those cables. So it's got to be pushed up against those cables, and then this last piece of photo-etch that we do here, this piece here is what gets put on the top there. But it's pushing up against them, and you can see there's the rough part in there where that plastic piece will end up. So the bottom one sits just fine without any issue. The top one may stress out those hoses, and it looks like we may have already popped one. What I'm going to do, again, because this is going to be stressed, I'm going to use super glue instead of regular glue to hold that on. Now I'm not going to use my the black super glue. I'm just going to use regular super glue, and I'm just putting it on a little in a little pool on a piece of plastic, and then I will pull it up by well, I would use my tool, but like I said, I think I flung that thing on the ground somewhere. No idea where that went. It's just a bent paper clip, but without being able to find it, can't use it. So I've got a punt here, and unfortunately I don't really have a lot of bent paper clips or that kind of stuff just sitting here on my desk. I know there are other tools you can use. Thank you. I like using bent paper clips personally, just a habit of mine. Use the tool you see fit to use. But I'm going to put some super glue right on here. I'm just using my forceps as a quick ad hoc applicator. I'm just making sure I get enough on there just to cover it and kind of get a sheen. I just want this glued on without too much fuss. There's that. There's that. Making sure I get the right one. Don't want that one. Want this one. Make sure that's accurate like so. Put this on and apply pressure for a short period of time. See if it moves. It's still moving. Now I'm not applying a ton of pressure. I'm just making sure it's making positive contact. And it's right in the middle. If that, you can see that. So with that, now that I've got some pressure going, I'm gonna give a little, maybe a little off screen, little spritz of the accelerator. That works better on the regular super glue than on but for whatever reason didn't do anything. Part just came right up. And this is also one of the problems with dealing with super glue is, you know, you put it on. I fully expected this was going to work. There's nothing special or crazy about it, but it didn't hold. So I got to put some glue on. So now what I'm going to do is apply the glue directly on these parts here. Hopefully the accelerator is not gonna affect the glue. I know there are varying levels of love for super glue, but I like it as a good tool. In the proper place and time. And with the proper amount, now it's part of the problem, I can see right there. This is set nice. The fold that was put on the part from Trumpeter didn't fold in concurrence with the plastic, if that makes sense. So I just using my forceps as an applicator, I got that on there. Okay, so that's on, that's fine. Now, the accelerator is still somewhat around, it's sticking stuff together. Don't want too much of that. Now, the next part is I want to put this piece on, and I want it to have a little give so that when I'm putting it on there, it's not popping off. Regular super glue is going to have that happen. So I'm going to use go back to my black super glue and put that plastic piece, which is part R27, onto the back of this. So I'll just do this. Squeeze a little bit out. Doesn't have to be a lot, but it's giving me some flexibility working with this. Now, when you look at the thing, honestly, it looks like it's even up both directions, so there's no top or bottom. I'm just going to put it on, and since it's not really a well-seen piece, I'm going to expect that I am kind of smearing that around on purpose, by the way. So then when this is on, it glues on everything. And yes, I will clean that up, but first and foremost, I want that glued on properly. Now it looks correct, lines up with the bolt heads, looks good. Now use the debonder that we've done in the past, and the super glue. Get this cleaned up. I don't normally like being this sloppy, period. But again, as I've said before, this is a part we're not really going to see from the back. And so, just going to do a little bit. So that takes care of that. So now I've got this piece that I need to mount on here without breaking everything that I've put on there so far. Now, part of what gets me is you've got this setup right here, and it looks like that needs to mount right up to that. I'm looking at the step from the back. Right up there like that. And that should do it just fine. There it is up against those plastic pieces on both sides. And it didn't push in the wires too much. And it does give a little bit of room in there, but not a ton for those wires in there. That's still on. So what I'm going to do with that knowledge is just put glue here, here, and here. Because I don't have any sort of a positive for that. I could, now, what we'll look at is once this is on, if this is touching those wires, I might want to glue those cables right to that so that if anything pops off, it's not a big snarled mess. And that's kind of where my fear lies. We're going to end up with a big snarled mess. So I'm just going to very carefully apply the glue. Now I know that this is bigger than the tabs, but, and you want to be very careful about what you touch. But that gives me, and you got to push this top piece down to get it to attach to those tabs. That right there gives me that positive. Now, what I can do is bend that tab back a little bit so that looks good. And then I'm going to take my spritz, my accelerator, from behind, and that should make everything secure. Now, right there I can see, I can see that the glue did not hold there or there. There's just either too much force or the glue ran off when I put this in. So, I don't want to touch the bottle directly to the accelerant because that'll cause problems. So again, I'm putting a little bit in my forceps, and I'm using my forceps as the transfer, partly because I know I can clean this off easily. And then I want to make sure I get some super glue in there. Now you might want to do this from the start and super glue it from underneath and all that. It's not my way of doing stuff. So now I'm looking at it, and there's all the lines if I wanted to glue them on, and I might just do that right now. And it might even happen accidentally, where I'm gluing and the glue gets on there, but I'm doing it on purpose right now. Just so I don't have to deal with it later. So now you've got, and in this case I've used a minimum of glue. So in this case now, these photo etch steps are all glued on nicely. There's a little bit of gap or flap or whatever there because this is where the one set meets the other set. Doesn't matter. This is also that little bit of a bend that for whatever reason doesn't match up with the plastic. Everything otherwise is bent the way it's supposed to be. If you're really worried about making sure all the angles are right, this could be pushed up due to the glue. It pushed it down, but you're limited by this lip here unless you make sure you got the part to the side, which I didn't on the second try. It looks like things shifted that way. So what you can do with that is just trim away a little bit of the plastic underneath this edge, just a tiny smidge, and give that photo etch piece a place to go, so it can come up. Now I'm off screen because I got a mosquito flying around. And I don't need a mosquito. Anyways, I gave a little bit more of a ridge that looks better as far as angle. But you don't want too big of a gap. I think that looks pretty good. So now we are, let's say, halfway through this section of the part. We have put, at this point in time, about 2 solid hours into this step, and we're only halfway done. I think the rest of this is going to go faster because it's a lot less photo etch, a lot less vinyl, and it's just plastic on parts. But let's leave it for here, and we'll pick this up again in the next video. Until then, I'll see you.